My name is Sharon Graves. I am 67 years old and I spent 32 years as a certified fraud examiner investigating people who lie about money for a living. My son-in-law, Brent, sat across from me at his kitchen table in Cherry Hills Village, Colorado. He was laughing. He had just told me again that I should be grateful my daughter married rich. He called me an ordinary old woman. He said it the way you state a fact too obvious to argue. I sipped my coffee from the blue mug my late husband gave me. I nodded. The next morning I handed him a manila envelope. He assumed it was a gift. He smiled. He even thanked me before he opened it. But here is what Brent did not know about that envelope or about me. What happened over the next 72 hours would cost him everything he had spent 15 years pretending to have. Welcome back to Alpha Mom Stories, where a mother's patience is her sharpest tool. If you have ever been underestimated, this one is for you. Drop a comment and be sure to subscribe. I need to take you back to the beginning because this story does not start at a kitchen table in Cherry Hills Village. It starts in a one-bedroom apartment in Aurora, Colorado in 1981, where a 22-year-old woman named Sharon Pulaski was sorting mail at an accounting firm for $9 an hour. That woman was me. I worked the mailroom during the day. At night, I took classes at Metropolitan State. It took me 6 years to finish my degree. I earned my CPA certification at 28, my CFE credential at 31. By 35, I was one of the first women in my firm's forensic accounting division. I spent the next 27 years investigating fraud, embezzlement insurance schemes, falsified financial statements. I testified in court 41 times. I could read a balance sheet the way some people read faces. My husband Daniel taught high school math. He graded papers at the kitchen table while I reviewed case files on the couch. We drove Hondas. We vacationed at state parks. We put our daughter Megan through college without loans. We lived in a 3-bedroom ranch house in Littleton that Daniel bought in 1991 for $142,000. We were comfortable. We were quiet. What people did not know, what we never told anyone, was that Daniel's parents had owned 480 acres of irrigated farmland in Weld County. When they passed, the land sold for $3.2 million. Daniel invested it carefully. I added my career savings. We never touched the principal. Our family trust held $6.8 million, so Daniel had one rule about that money. He said it every time we reviewed the statements: wealth is a safety net, not a weapon. Never let money change how people see you. I honored that rule for 40 years. Megan was the kind of daughter who made you believe you did something right. She made Dean's List at CU Boulder, communications major. She was the kid who called me every Sunday who brought homemade soup to the house when Daniel got sick. She remembered birthdays, blood types, and the names of her friends' pets. She had a talent for paying attention to people. After college, she took a job as a marketing coordinator at a Denver nonprofit that served veterans' families. She loved it. She was building a life that looked like hers, not someone else's. Then she met Brent Holloway at a charity gala in downtown Denver. He was handsome, confident. He had a handshake that lasted 1 second too long. He drove a Range Rover. He wore a suit that cost more than my first car. He told Megan about his real estate development company, his projects, his vision for luxury living in Colorado. The first time Brent came to dinner at our house, he asked about my career. I said forensic accounting. He nodded once and changed the subject. He spent the rest of the meal talking about his condo developments in Cherry Hills. Daniel leaned over to me after Brent left and whispered, "He did not ask a single question." I remember that, Daniel noticed. Daniel always noticed. The wedding was at the Broadmoor in Colorado Springs. Brent's family paid for everything. Lorraine, his mother, made sure every guest knew the per-plate cost, $87. She announced it during the rehearsal dinner like it was a stock price. I held my blue ceramic mug at the hotel breakfast the next morning. I watched my daughter marry a man who measured the world in dollar signs. I said nothing. I watched. Let me tell you about Brent Holloway because he was not born in Cherry Hills Village. He was born in Greeley, Colorado. His father, Raymond, was an auto mechanic who played poker 3 nights a week. Raymond was not good at poker, By the time Brent was 12, the family had lost their house. Brent and his younger brother Neil shared a bedroom in a rented duplex on 9th Avenue that smelled like engine oil and instant noodles. Brent delivered newspapers at 5 in the morning. He mowed lawns after school. He swore at 12 years old that he would never be poor again. That promise became his entire personality. He got into real estate at 23 with a borrowed $40,000. By 30, he had a development company. By 35, the house in Cherry Hills Village, the country club membership, and a Rolex Submariner that he wore the way some people wear wedding rings, always visible, always angled toward the light. The first time, Brent said it was at a Sunday dinner 8 months after the wedding. We were at his house. The dining table could seat 12. There were 4 of us. Brent leaned back, swirled his wine, and looked at me. "Your daughter married rich Sharon. You should be grateful." He said it with a laugh, not a cruel laugh, a casual one, like he was pointing out something I had somehow missed. I set down my fork. I looked at him for 3 full seconds. Then I picked up my coffee and took a slow sip. I said nothing. Not because I had nothing to say, because I had too much. Lorraine Holloway was 64 years old and had earned every line on her face through a life she did not choose. She married Raymond at 19. She worked as a dental hygienist while Raymond gambled away paychecks. When Brent was 15, Raymond had a heart attack in the parking lot of a card room in Fort Collins. He was dead before the ambulance arrived. Lorraine was left with 2 teenage boys and $14,000 in debt. She took extra shifts and moved to a smaller apartment. She put Brent through 2 years of community college because that was all she could afford. When Brent started making real money in his late 20s, Lorraine finally exhaled for the first time in a decade. But the years of humiliation did something to her. They calcified into a system. Lorraine began measuring people by their bank accounts because for 20 years her bank account was the only thing anyone measured her by. At family gatherings, Lorraine treated me with surgical politeness. "Sharon, dear, you look well. Is that a new blouse?" "It is nice." The pause before nice carried more weight than the word itself. She kept a photo of Raymond in her wallet. I saw it once when she was looking for her insurance card. She did not mention it. She did not need to. She never remarried. Despite everything Raymond had done, she loved him. That did not excuse her cruelty toward me, but it told me where the cruelty lived in a wound that never closed. Lorraine looked at Brent's success and saw her own survival. Anyone who threatened the appearance of that success was an enemy, and I, with my Honda and my ranch house and my chipped coffee mug, was the enemy she understood best. Thanksgiving, Brent's house. 2 years after the wedding, the dining room had been professionally decorated. White tablecloth, crystal wine glasses, a centerpiece that cost more than my monthly grocery bill. The dinner was catered. Lorraine did not cook for Thanksgiving. She curated it. Brent stood and raised his glass. He made a toast. He thanked everyone who made this possible. He named Lorraine for her sacrifices. He named Neil for his loyalty. He named his business partners by first and last name. He named the caterer. He did not mention me. Lorraine added, smiling over her wine, "We are so blessed to be able to give Megan the life she deserves." She looked at me as she said it. The implication was sterile and precise. Megan had been rescued. I held my blue ceramic mug, Daniel's mug. The chip on the rim caught the candlelight. I sipped. I said nothing. After dinner, I went to the kitchen for water. The kitchen shared a wall with the study. The wall was thin. I heard Brent's voice, then Lorraine's. "She is just an ordinary old woman. I do not know why Megan insists on inviting her. Lorraine, give it time. She will stop coming on her own." I stood at the counter. I set down the mug. I picked up my coat. I walked to the front door. I did not say goodbye. In the car, I sat for 1 minute. I did not cry. I drove home. I sat in Daniel's chair. And I thought. I heard what he said. Every word. And I filed it where I file everything in the place where I keep things I will need later. 3 weeks after Thanksgiving, Megan called. Her voice was different, thin, rehearsed. She said Brent was stressed about a deal falling through. One of his development projects had stalled. I asked a careful question. "Has he talked to you about the finances?" Megan deflected. "Brent handles all that." 5 words. They landed on me like a diagnosis. In 32 years of investigating fraud, the first sign is always one person who handles all that. Every embezzlement case, every Ponzi scheme, every cook set of books somewhere in the story, one spouse, one partner, one employee, says those exact words. Brent handles all that. The sentence is a locked door with no key given. I went to my home office. The room still smelled like Daniel's aftershave. I opened my old leather briefcase, the one I carried for 3 decades, the clasps worn smooth from 10,000 openings. Inside, there was a manila envelope, empty, waiting. I keep blank envelopes in my briefcase the way a surgeon keeps clean scalpels. You never know when you will need one. I opened my laptop and started with what was publicly available: Arapahoe County property records, Colorado Secretary of State business filings, court records for liens and judgments. What I found in the first hour stopped me cold. 2 mechanics' liens filed against Brent's development company, Holloway Premier LLC. A judgment of $340,000 from a subcontractor named Reeves Concrete. A property tax delinquency on a commercial parcel in Centennial. I closed my laptop. I looked at the empty manila envelope. I was not looking for trouble, but I had spent my whole career recognizing it, and trouble was sitting in the Arapahoe County Clerk's database, filed under Holloway. The next morning I went deeper. Brent's company was not one company. It was 3 LLCs: Holloway Premier LLC, Cherry Hills Development Group LLC, and Highland Crest Properties LLC, each one layered on top of the other, each one with different registered agents. Neil Holloway was the registered agent for 2 of them. Neil was not just Brent's brother. He was the paperwork man. He handled filings, tax returns, investor correspondence. He was the person who typed the numbers into the forms, the person who made the structure look solid on paper, even when the foundation was sand. I remembered Neil at the wedding. Polite, quiet, forgettable. At a family brunch for Lorraine's birthday, Neil leaned across the table and said, "Sharon, you must be so proud of Megan. Not many girls from Littleton end up in Cherry Hills." He meant it as a compliment. It landed like a backhanded serve. I nodded. I sipped my coffee. Neil was not cruel by nature. He was dependent. Brent paid his salary, $78,000 a year. Brent covered his health insurance, his car payment, his apartment rent. Neil had no degree, no savings, no exit plan. If he questioned Brent, he lost everything. His complicity was not malice. It was survival. But survival at someone else's expense still leaves a mark. That evening, I found something in the Secretary of State filings that changed everything. A statement of financial condition submitted with a commercial development permit application. Brent's declared net worth $12.4 million. I stared at the number. I had already found $4.1 million in debts and liens. I had identified real assets totaling perhaps $2.3 million, now $12.4 million. That number was not optimistic. It was fiction. That is when I stopped looking out of curiosity and started looking the way I used to look, professionally. I pulled out my old CFE toolkit, spreadsheets, checklists, timeline templates, the same tools I had used on 214 cases. I worked from my home office, the room where Daniel used to grade calculus exams. His red pen was still in the desk drawer. I left it there. I mapped Brent's financial landscape using only public sources. County Recorder Deed of Trust on the Cherry Hills house showed an original mortgage of $2.56 million plus a second deed of trust for $480,000. The house was appraised at $3.2 million, and his equity after both mortgages was roughly $160,000. Colorado DORA database. Brent's real estate broker license was current. no disciplinary actions, but a note in the file showed a complaint from an investor that had been withdrawn. Withdrawn complaints often mean settlements. Settlements mean someone was unhappy enough to file and paid enough to stop. Pacer. The federal court record system showed no bankruptcy filings. Not yet. But the debt pattern I was assembling looked like a countdown timer. Denver County Court had 3 small claims judgments against Holloway Premier LLC. A landscaping company owed $23,000. An interior designer owed $41,000. A concrete supplier owed $67,000, all within the last 18 months. I added the numbers in a column. Total identifiable debt, $4.1 million. Total identifiable assets. The house equity, $160,000, 2 vehicles, both leased equity 0, the development company whose 3 LLCs carried more liabilities than receivables, and a brokerage account with approximately $2.14 million. Real net worth, approximately negative $1.8 million, compared to the $12.4 million he claimed on government filings. In my career, I investigated 214 fraud cases. I could spot a cooked book from across the room. Brent's books were not just cooked, they were charcoal. 3 weeks into my investigation, Megan called on a Tuesday evening. Her voice had that thin quality again, rehearsed. Mom, Brent wants us to sign a postnuptial agreement. His attorney says it is standard for couples with significant assets. My hand tightened on the phone. I kept my voice even. Did Brent's attorney explain what significant assets means in your case? Pause. Brent said it is to protect both of us. Does Brent's attorney represent both of you? Brent said one attorney is enough. That sentence froze me. In fraud investigations, when one party insists on a single attorney, it means one party is about to be harmed, and the attorney has been chosen to serve the person doing the harming. Sweetheart, you need your own lawyer. Not Brent's lawyer. Yours. Megan's voice shifted. Harder now. The script coming through. Mom, you are overthinking this. You always see the worst in people. I heard Brent's voice in that sentence. Those were not Megan's words. Those were Brent's words shaped to fit Megan's mouth. I had seen this pattern 100 times, the person being defrauded defending the person defrauding them. I did not push. I love you. Call me if you want to talk. After she hung up, I went to the home office. I opened the briefcase. The manila envelope was still inside, still empty. But now I knew what it needed to hold. I needed the financial disclosure attached to that postnuptial. If Brent inflated his net worth to government agencies, he almost certainly inflated it to Megan. And under Colorado law, a postnuptial built on false numbers is a postnuptial built on sand. 2 weeks passed. Megan did not call. I texted her twice. No response. I sent a birthday card for her 34th hand addressed with a check for $200 and a note that said, I am proud of you. Love, Mom. She acknowledged it with a single word. Thanks. 1 word, 5 letters, no punctuation, no warmth. I drove to Cherry Hills Village on a Saturday afternoon. The gate guard recognized me and waved me through. I parked in the circular driveway and rang the bell. Brent answered. He was wearing a polo shirt. The Rolex was on his wrist. He held a glass of red wine. It was 2 p.m. Sharon, what a surprise. His smile was the kind you give a door-to-door salesman. I would like to see Megan. Megan is resting. She does not want visitors. I am not a visitor, Brent. I am her mother. He leaned against the door frame. Look, Sharon, I know this is hard. Megan is growing up. She does not need you hovering. She has a family now. He paused. He let the pause do the work. A real family. He said, a real family. The way you would say, a real diamond to someone wearing costume jewelry. The insult lived in the emphasis. Behind him, on the entryway console table, I saw a stack of legal-sized documents. I could read the top line of the top page from 6 feet away. Holloway Post-Nuptial Agreement Schedule of Financial Disclosure. I nodded. I turned. I walked to my car. In the car, I sat for 60 seconds. Then I drove to the Arapahoe County Clerk and Recorder's office. The investigation was no longer about curiosity. It was about protecting my daughter from a man who was building a cage out of paperwork. At the county clerk's office, I did not find the postnuptial. That was a private agreement. But I found something better. Brent had filed a statement of financial condition with Arapahoe County as part of a commercial development permit application for a townhome project in Greenwood Village. The filing date was 7 months earlier. The declared net worth $12.4 million. I now had 2 documents where Brent claimed $12.4 million in assets. The first was the SBA loan application I found through Secretary of State records. The second was this county filing. Both were public records, both bore his signature, both were official representations to government entities. I called my former colleague, Deborah Yates. Deborah was a CPA who had worked with me on 11 fraud cases during our years at the firm. She was meticulous and independent. "Deborah, I need a second pair of eyes on a financial analysis." I sent her my spreadsheet. 2 days later, she called back. "Sharon, this man's balance sheet has more holes than a kitchen strainer. His real assets total approximately $2.3 million. His documented liabilities are $4.1 million. His actual net worth is negative $1.8 million, and he is claiming $12.4. The discrepancy between Brent's claimed net worth and his actual position was $14.2 million. Not a rounding error, not optimism, fiction. I noted one more thing in my file. Brent's Rolex Submariner model, 124060 stainless steel, retailed for $14,200. His watch cost more than his actual equity in the $3.2 million house he was so proud of. I began drafting the forensic report. Professional format, page numbers, source citations, appendices, the same way I had done it 214 times before. I did not feel angry. I felt precise. Anger is a distraction. Precision is a tool. 6 weeks into my investigation, an invitation arrived. Lily's 3rd birthday party, at Brent's house. The invitation came late 4 days' notice. Lorraine's doing. She wanted me to come unprepared or not at all. I came prepared. I brought a handmade quilt. The fabric was from a bolt Daniel and I had chosen years ago in golden purple elephants, yellow stars, a green border. We picked it for a grandchild we had not yet met. Lorraine held the quilt between 2 fingers as if checking for stains. "Oh, how homemade. Lily, sweetie, look what Grandma Sharon made. Is that not creative?" She set it on the floor behind the gift table. Brent gave Lily a $2,400 play structure. Neil gave her an iPad. Lorraine presented a savings bond for $5,000 and had to announce the amount to the room. After the gifts, Lorraine found me in the kitchen. She put her hand on my arm. The gesture was soft. The words were not. "Sharon, I think it might be better if you stopped coming to family events. It confuses Lily. She does not understand who her real family is." She squeezed my arm. "Your daughter married rich. She is in our world now. You should be grateful and let her be. Your daughter married rich. You should be grateful." The line again, the same words, different mouth. I removed Lorraine's hand from my arm, gently. I picked up my blue ceramic mug from the counter. I took a sip. The coffee was cold. I looked at Lorraine. I thought about every fraud case where the person committing the crime genuinely believed they deserved the money. She had that same look, total certainty in a total lie. If you've ever been told you should be grateful for being allowed near your own grandchild, you know the feeling in your chest right now. Stay with me. What I found next changed everything. Hit that subscribe button. You will not want to miss this. I contacted Rita Castillo the following Monday. Rita was a family law attorney I had worked with during my CFE career. We collaborated on 7 divorce fraud cases over 12 years. She was precise, she was thorough, and she did not waste words. I brought the forensic report to her office in a manila folder. She read all 18 pages while I sat across from her desk drinking water from a paper cup. She set down the report. She removed her reading glasses. Sharon, this postnuptial is voidable. Under CRS, Section 14.2.307, a marital agreement is unenforceable if one party failed to provide fair and reasonable disclosure of property and financial obligations. She tapped page 14. A 14.2 million discrepancy is not a rounding error. It is fraud. I asked. Even if Megan already signed, the agreement can be challenged retroactively. If the financial disclosure was materially false at the time of signing, the court can void it. This is textbook. I asked about the family trust. Rita confirmed what I already knew. As trustee, I controlled distribution. Brent had no claim to trust assets under Colorado law with or without a postnuptial. I drove home. I sat at Daniel's old desk. I opened the leather briefcase. I took out the manila envelope. I began filling it. Document 1, the Forensic Accounting Report. 18 pages. Every number sourced, every claim cited. Document 2, Rita's Legal Opinion Letter. 2 pages. Reinforceability of Holloway postnuptial agreement under CRS. Section 14.2.307. I sealed the envelope partway. It was not ready. One piece was missing. The missing piece found me on a Thursday afternoon. I was following standard CFE protocol, checking ancillary records, cross-referencing timelines. One routine step, verifying marital status consistency across filings. I pulled Brent's most recent commercial property refinancing through the Arapahoe County Recorder's Office. A property on Arapahoe Road, a small strip of retail units Brent's company had developed 2 years earlier. He had refinanced it 4 months ago. I read the application. Name, address, social security number, and then marital status, separated. I read it again. I read it 3 times. Brent Holloway had listed his marital status as separated on a refinancing application filed 4 months ago. 4 months ago was October. In October, Megan had posted a photo of herself and Brent at a charity dinner, smiling, together. They were not separated. I called Deborah Yates and asked her to run a title search, a standard procedure requiring spouse signatures for encumbered properties. The result confirmed it. Brent had signed a loan listing himself as separated to avoid spousal consent. I called Megan. I kept my voice neutral. Honey, are you and Brent separated? Confusion. What? No, Mom. Why would you ask that? I did not explain. But now I knew. Brent was positioning for divorce. He was claiming separated on financial documents while still legally married, and he was doing this while pushing Megan to sign a postnuptial agreement that would lock her out of equitable distribution of actual marital assets. The timeline crystallized. Brent inflated his worth so the postnuptial looked generous. 15% of 12.4 million sounds like nearly 2 million. 15% of negative 1.8 million is less than nothing. Once the postnuptial was signed, Brent would file for divorce. Megan would be left with a fraction of a lie. Lily would grow up in the wreckage, and Brent would keep the facade. I went to Daniel's chair. I sat. I held the blue mug. The coffee was lukewarm. I drank it anyway. Daniel's rule echoed in my head. Wealth is a safety net, not a weapon. Daniel, I said to the empty room, I am about to break our rule, but I am not using wealth as a weapon. I am using the truth as a shield. I went to the desk. I took out the manila envelope. I added document 3, the refinancing application showing separated ED alongside a timeline correlating the filing date with the post-nuptial push. I sealed the envelope. The missing piece was not another number. It was proof of intent. Brent was not just bad with money. He was building an exit, and he was planning to leave my daughter locked inside the burning house while he walked out with the insurance. 3 days passed. The sealed envelope sat on Daniel's desk. I looked at it every morning while I drank my coffee. On Sunday night, I called Rita Castillo. I have everything. Report your legal opinion, the refinancing document. But if I do this wrong, I lose Megan. Brent will tell her I am a bitter old woman trying to destroy her marriage. Rita was quiet for a moment. Then, Sharon, you have 18 pages of documented evidence with source citations. This is not opinion. This is arithmetic. Arithmetic does not care about feelings. What if she does not believe me? Then you hand her the documents and let the numbers do the talking. That is what you did for 32 years. I decided. I would not approach Megan privately. Brent would intercept it, reframe it, spin it into evidence of my jealousy. Instead, I would present the evidence at a family dinner with Brent, Lorraine, and Neil all present. The fraud involved all three of them, and in my experience, fraud unravels fastest when every participant is in the same room. I called Megan on Monday. I would like to come to dinner on Sunday, clear the air, spend some time together. Megan was surprised, cautiously hopeful. I will ask Brent. An hour later, she called back. He said yes. He said she hesitated. He said, let the old lady come. Maybe she will finally accept her place. She did not realize I heard the exact quote. She thought she was paraphrasing. She was quoting. I wrote the date in my planner, Sunday, March 15th. Then I called the trust administrator and requested a certified statement of the Graves Family Trust. Current assets under management, $6,148,000. Trustee Sharon M. Graves. Primary beneficiary Megan D. Holloway née Graves. Document 4. That week, I prepared the way I used to prepare for court testimony. No rehearsals, no speeches. In my experience, the documents speak for themselves. All I needed to do was hand them over and stay quiet. I reviewed the forensic report one final time. Every number checked, every source citation verified, every document in the envelope was a copy. Originals stayed in the fireproof safe in my basement closet. On Wednesday, I drove to Fort Logan National Cemetery. Daniel's headstone was simple. Gray granite. His name, his years, and the inscription he chose before he died. The math always works out. I sat on the bench beside his stone and talked to him for an hour. I told him about the post-nuptial, about Brent's debts, about the words separated on a government filing signed by a man who came home to our daughter every night. I told him I was going to break our rule. You said wealth is a safety net, not a weapon. I still believe that. But a safety net only works if someone is there to hold it when the fall comes. Megan is about to fall, and I am the only one who can see the edge. The wind shifted, just enough to move the grass. I chose what I would wear: navy blazer, white blouse, gray slacks. Professional, not aggressive, not meek. The outfit I wore to 41 court appearances. I packed the manila envelope into my leather briefcase. I checked the clasp twice. Force of habit. I called Rita. Be available Sunday evening. If things go sideways, I may need you. Rita, I will be parked 2 houses down. Call me if you need me to come inside. The week passed slowly. I cleaned the house. I made soup. I waited. Sunday, March 15th. I woke at 6. I made coffee in the blue mug. I sat in Daniel's chair. I worked the crossword. Force of habit. At 4, I showered. I dressed. Navy blazer, white blouse, gray slacks, flat shoes, the kind you wear when you know you might need to stand for a long time. I looked in the mirror. I saw a 67-year-old woman with sandy blonde hair going silver and reading glasses on a chain around her neck. Curtain bangs, long layers, lines around my eyes from decades of reading fine print. I did not look dangerous. That was the point. I picked up the briefcase. The manila envelope was inside. I felt its weight: 18 pages of forensic report, 2 pages of legal opinion, 1 refinancing document, 1 trust statement, 4 documents, 5 months of investigation, 32 years of professional expertise, 1 envelope. The drive from Littleton to Cherry Hills Village took 22 minutes. I drove 5 under the speed limit. I parked on the street, not in the driveway. Rita Castillo's gray Subaru was already parked 2 houses down. Megan opened the front door. She looked tired, but she smiled. "Mom, I'm glad you came." I hugged her. I held on 1 second longer than usual. She noticed. She pulled back and searched my face. I smiled. Inside, Brent was at the kitchen island pouring Cabernet. Lorraine was arranging white roses in a crystal vase. Neil was on his phone, thumb scrolling. Dana, his girlfriend, was setting the table. Brent saw me and raised his glass. "Sharon, good to see you. Wine." "No, thank you. I will have coffee." I set my briefcase by my chair at the dining table. It held everything that mattered. Nobody looked at it. That is the thing about being underestimated. People never watch what you carry. Dinner was roasted chicken and risotto from a caterer in Greenwood Village, though Lorraine took credit for both. Brent dominated the conversation. He talked about his latest development, a luxury townhome complex off University Boulevard. He quoted projected profits $2.8 million. Neil nodded along. Lorraine beamed. I ate quietly. I listened. Lorraine steered the conversation to Lily's private school. Tuition is $32,000 a year, but you cannot put a price on a proper start. She looked at me. Where did Megan go to school? Sharon, was it public? CU Boulder, Dean's List, full academic scholarship. Lorraine waved her hand. College is one thing. Lily will have advantages from the beginning. Brent turned to me, his wine glass half empty. Sharon, how is retirement? Must be nice having all that free time. He paused. Not much to do with it, I imagine, but still. Then to the table at large, as though delivering a verdict. I keep telling Megan, your daughter married rich. She should be grateful she does not have to worry about money. Not everyone gets that luxury. Lorraine added, not looking up from her risotto. Brent, leave Sharon alone. She is just an ordinary woman enjoying her retirement. Your daughter married rich. You should be grateful. Just an ordinary woman. The lines landed like stamps on an envelope. Final. Official. I picked up my coffee mug. The chip on the rim caught the candlelight. I took one slow sip. I set the mug down. I let them finish. I have learned that people who are about to lose everything always talk the loudest right before the end. I reached down. I opened the briefcase clasp. The sound was small, a click, nothing more. But it was the loudest sound in that room that mattered. I placed the manila envelope on the table beside my dinner plate. I waited until dessert was cleared. Lorraine was describing a Mediterranean cruise she and Brent were planning for August. Neil was on his phone again. Megan was stacking plates by the sink. I stood. The room went half quiet the way a room does when someone breaks the pattern. Brent, I have something for you. I slid the manila envelope across the walnut table. It traveled 2 feet smooth and silent across the polished wood. Brent picked it up. He smiled a real smile, not a performance. He thought it was a thank you card. The old woman had finally come around. What is this, Sharon, a thank you note? He laughed. Short, warm, almost affectionate. Lorraine smiled. Neil glanced up from his phone. Megan was watching from the kitchen island. She was not smiling. She knew me. She could see something in my face that the others could not read, a stillness that did not match the occasion. Open it, I said. 2 words. No inflection. Brent tore the flap. He reached inside. He pulled out the first document. The room was quiet. Not because anyone sensed what was coming, because when Brent reads, everyone waits. It was a reflex the family had developed. Brent holds the floor even in silence. The first page was the cover sheet. Financial analysis, Brent R. Holloway assets, liabilities, and discrepancies, prepared by Sharon M. Graves, CFE. Brent's smile did not vanish at once. It faded, like a dimmer switch turned slowly toward dark. He looked up at me. For the first time in 5 years, he really looked at me. And he saw something he had never bothered to notice. I was not an ordinary old woman. I was the woman who had prepared a professional forensic report on his finances and delivered it across his own dinner table. Brent turned the pages. Each one was worse than the last. Page 3 claimed assets versus verified assets. Left column $12.4 million. Right column $2.3 million. Gap $10.1 million unsubstantiated. Page 7 identified liabilities. The mechanic's liens, the Reeves concrete judgment, the second deed of trust, the leased vehicles. The small claims judgments, itemized, dated, sourced, total 4.1 million, page 11, net worth calculation. A simple equation, assets minus liabilities. Claim net worth positive $12.4 million. Actual net worth negative $1.8 million. The number was circled in red. Brent's hands trembled, not from fear, from anger, the kind that comes when a man who built his identity on a number discovers it is wrong. "What the hell is this, Sharon?" His voice was tight, controlled, not yet loud. "It is an accounting. An analysis of your publicly filed financial statements compared to your verified financial position. My profession was forensic examination. This is what I did for 32 years. Lorraine snatched the report from Brent. She read page 3. Her face shifted from confusion to recognition, the kind that comes when you realize you should have seen this person coming. Neil stood up from his chair. He recognized some of the documents cited in the footnotes. He had prepared several of them. His eyes went to the hallway. Megan walked over from the kitchen island. She had not moved until now. "Megan," I said, "page 14 is the one that matters most." She took the report from Lorraine. She turned to page 14. Side by side, the financial disclosure attached to the postnuptial versus the verified financial position. Every line was highlighted in yellow. Every line was wrong. She read it again. "Mom, he told me he was worth $12 million. "I know, sweetheart. He told a lot of people that." Brent grabbed the report back. His face was red from collar to ears. "This is garbage. You are a retired accountant with a personal grudge. No court would take this seriously. You do not have the right to—" "There is a second document in the envelope, Brent." He stared at me. Then he reached into the manila envelope and pulled out a 2-page letter on the letterhead of Castillo Family Law, PC. The subject line, Reinforceability of Holloway Postnuptial Agreement under CRS Section 14.2.307. Rita's letter was precise under the Colorado Uniform, Premarital and Marital Agreements Act. A marital agreement is unenforceable if one party failed to provide fair disclosure of property and financial obligations. The Holloway disclosure contained misrepresentations totaling $14.2 million. The agreement was voidable. Brent read the letter. He read it twice. His lips moved on the second pass. Lorraine spoke from across the table. "Brent, what does that mean?" Brent did not answer her. Neil was standing in the hallway now. He had his keys in his hand but had not left. He was frozen the way people freeze when they know movement in any direction leads to a worse place. I spoke to Megan. "The postnuptial you signed, the one Brent told you was standard, is based on numbers that do not exist. A family court judge can void it." Megan looked at me. "You are saying the agreement is not valid." "I am saying the agreement was built on fraud, and fraud does not hold up in a Colorado courtroom." Brent's voice cracked. "You have no right to investigate my finances. This is an invasion of privacy. Every document I cited is a public record, filed by you, with your signature. I have testified in 41 court proceedings, Brent. I know the difference between an invasion of privacy and a public filing." I let the silence sit for 5 seconds. Then I said, "There's a third document." Brent did not reach for it. He had stopped pulling things from the envelope the way a man stops opening doors in a burning building. I pulled it out myself. I handed it directly to Megan. It was a single page. The refinancing application for the Arapahoe Road commercial property, filed 4 months ago, Brent's name, address, social security number, and 1 box checked and signed marital status, separated. Megan held the page at arm's length as though it might be contagious. "Brent, this says separated." He ran a hand through his hair. "That is a typo, a clerical error. My broker filled it out wrong." "It was filed 4 months ago. The same month you asked me to sign the postnuptial, typed and signed by you." "Megan, listen to me. Your mother is twisting." Megan held up her hand, one hand palm out. She did not raise her voice. She did not cry. She became in that moment her mother's daughter, still precise, absolutely present. You wanted me to sign a postnuptial based on numbers you made up, and you were already telling the county we were separated. She did not phrase it as a question. Lorraine interjected from her seat. Megan, sweetheart, every marriage goes through rough patches. This is not. Megan turned to Lorraine. Her voice was level. Lorraine, sit down. The room went silent. Lorraine had never been told to sit down by Megan, not once in 5 years. Her mouth opened, it closed. She sat. Neil was in the hallway, keys in hand, halfway to the garage door. I could hear him breathing. I said nothing. I did not need to. I gave Megan the truth. She was doing the rest. Brent stood. His chair scraped the hardwood floor with a sound like a match striking. He pointed at me. His hand was shaking. You think you can walk into my house and destroy my marriage with some accountant's paperwork? His voice was climbing. His face was the color of the wine he had been drinking. The veins in his neck were visible. I remained seated. I picked up my coffee mug. I took a sip. The coffee was cold. It did not matter. Brent, I did not destroy anything. I documented what already existed. You are a bitter old woman who cannot accept that your daughter has a better life than you ever gave her. I set down the mug, carefully, on the saucer. The ceramic barely made a sound. Brent, there is one more document in the envelope. He looked at the manila envelope. It was nearly empty now, but there was still a single page inside. He reached for it with a hand that was no longer steady. As he reached, his Rolex caught the overhead light. The Submariner. $14,200 retail. I watched it flash and thought, that watch is worth more than your equity in this house. He pulled out the final page. It was a 1-page certified statement from the administrator of the Graves Family Trust. Assets under management, $648,000. Trustee Sharon M. Graves. Primary beneficiary, Megan D. Holloway nee Graves. Brent read the number. He read it again. He read it a third time. $6,848,000. He looked at me. The woman in the navy blazer. The woman with the chipped coffee mug. The woman who drove a Honda and lived in a ranch house in Littleton. The woman he called ordinary. He did not speak. The silence lasted 12 seconds. I counted them in my head. I have always been good with numbers. Lorraine broke first. That cannot be right. Daniel was a teacher. Daniel was a teacher. He was also the son of a farming family that sold 480 acres of irrigated land in Weld County in 2004. Daniel invested the proceeds carefully. I added my career savings. We never touched the principal. Lorraine's face went through 3 stages in 5 seconds: confusion, recalculation, and something that looked like a physical injury. Neil had stopped moving toward the door. He was staring at the trust statement, doing the math that anyone in the room could do. If Sharon's trust was worth $6.8 million and Brent's net worth was negative $1.8 million, then Sharon was richer than Brent by $8.6 million. Brent found his voice. It came out cracked. You had this money the whole time, and you let us. You let me. Let you what, Brent? Let you mock me. Let you call me ordinary. Let you tell me I should be grateful. I paused, long enough for every person in the room to hear the next sentence land. I am grateful. I am grateful my daughter has options you were trying to take away. If you are still here, I know you want to see what happens next. Make sure you are subscribed and that notification bell is on, because the next few minutes are the ones you came for. Megan walked to my chair. She stood beside me. She put her hand on my shoulder. She did not say anything. She did not need to. She chose her side. Brent pivoted to attack mode. It was the only gear he had left. None of this is admissible. You are not a lawyer. This is harassment. I will sue you for defamation. Every figure in that report comes from public records filed by you or your companies. Defamation requires a false statement of fact. Would you like to identify which of my statements is false? He opened his mouth, closed it. opened it again. Nothing came out that was useful. Megan spoke from beside my chair. She did not go behind my back, Brent. She went to my back. That is what mothers do. Brent turned to Lorraine. He needed an ally, someone to tell him this was unfair, that Sharon had no right, that the old woman was out of line. Lorraine was not looking at Brent. She was looking at the trust statement. I could see her recalculating not the numbers, but the relationships. If I controlled $6.8 million and Megan was the beneficiary, then Lorraine's access to Lily in a divorce depended on who held the money, and the money was on my side of the table. Brent, Lorraine said quietly, maybe we should talk about this privately. Are you serious right now? I said privately. Lorraine looked at me. For 1 second, something real crossed her face. Not apology, not surrender. Something older than both the face of a woman who has spent her whole life recalculating the odds and knows when the table has turned. She was thinking about Lily. I could see it. And that one thought, the granddaughter, was the only honest thing Lorraine had shown me in 5 years. Neil stepped back into the dining room from the hallway. He still had his keys in his hand. Brent, his voice was flat. She has the filings, the ones I prepared. Brent's head snapped toward his brother. Shut up, Neil. The net worth statement for the county permit, the SBA application. I typed the numbers you gave me. He looked at me. I did not know those numbers were going into a postnuptial. I met his eyes. But you knew they were false. Neil swallowed. I knew they were optimistic. Optimistic is 10%, Neil. You inflated his declared position by 440%. Neil sat down. He put his head in his hands. His keys clattered on the table. I have been working for Brent since I was 23. He pays my rent. He covers my insurance. I do not have a degree. I do not have savings. His voice was muffled through his hands. If I told the truth, I would have nothing. I understand that, I said. I also understand that the person who prepares a fraudulent financial disclosure for a legal document shares exposure. Your name is on those filings. Neil nodded without lifting his head. Brent was watching his brother, the one person who was supposed to remain loyal, the one person who knew where the numbers lived, fold in front of the woman he had dismissed as ordinary. The Holloway front, united for 5 years in their certainty that I was less than them, was fracturing into 3 separate people, each calculating their own exit. Brent stood at the head of the table, gripping its edge. Lorraine sat with arms crossed. Neil had his forehead on the table. Megan stood beside me. Dana had excused herself to the bathroom and had not returned. Brent made one final attempt. Sharon, name your price. What do you want? You want me to apologize? I will apologize. You want me to tear up the postnuptial? I will tear it up right now. You want... I held up one hand. I did not stand. I did not raise my voice. Brent, I do not want your apology. An apology from a man who is only sorry he got caught is just another performance. And I have watched enough performances from you. Eye contact. 3 seconds. His gaze dropped first. Here is what is going to happen. Megan is going to retain her own attorney. Not yours, not your family's. She will have the postnuptial independently reviewed, and then she will make her own decisions about her marriage, her finances, and her future, without your script. You cannot just... I am not asking for your permission, Brent. I stopped asking for things from people who do not respect me a long time ago. His hand went to his wrist, to the Rolex. He touched it the way you touch a talisman, the thing you reach for when you need to feel powerful. But the watch just sat there. $14,200 of stainless steel that could not buy him out of this room. I picked up my coffee mug, one more sip, set it down. That mug had been with me through 41 court proceedings, 214 fraud cases, and 1 marriage that lasted 36 years. It could handle one more difficult conversation. Lorraine tried one last time. She drew herself up in her chair and used the voice she had used on me for 5 years, the voice of benevolent authority. Sharon, all of this show, it does not change the fact that Megan married into this family. She has a good life because of us. She should be... I interrupted. The first and only time I interrupted anyone the entire evening. Grateful, she should be grateful. I stood. For the first time all evening, I was on my feet. My daughter married a man with $4.1 million in debt and a postnuptial built on numbers he invented. Tell me again, Lorraine. Who should be grateful? The line that had been used to belittle me, the line Brent said over dinner 2 years ago, the line Lorraine repeated at Lily's birthday party, now hung in the air like a boomerang that had finally found its way back. Lorraine opened her mouth, closed it, opened it. Nothing. Brent stepped forward. This is not over, Sharon. I have lawyers. I have resources. You have debts, Brent. You have liens. You have a fraudulent financial disclosure filed with Arapahoe County and attached to a postnuptial agreement. And now you have a mother-in-law who documented all of it. I paused. What you do not have is $12 million. He flinched. The number, his fiction, the number he built his identity around, hit him the way truth hits people who have been lying for so long they forgot the original shape of things. I am not ordinary, Brent. I am thorough. The sentence landed like a door closing. Quiet, final, done. Megan stepped forward. She'd been quiet since telling Lorraine to sit down. Now she spoke. Brent, I loved you. I moved into this house. I left my friends. I let myself believe my mother was being difficult because you told me she was. I signed papers you said were standard. I trusted you. She held up the refinancing document. The word separated was visible even from across the room. You told the county we were separated while I was planning our daughter's birthday party. Brent reached for her arm. Megan, please. We can work this out. I will fix everything. I will... Fix what, a $14.2 million lie with what money, Brent? The question was not rhetorical. She waited for an answer. He did not have one. Megan turned to me. Mom, can I have Rita's number? I reached into my blazer pocket and took out a business card. I had carried it all evening. I handed it to her. Megan read the card. She looked at Brent. I am going to call this attorney tomorrow morning. I will have the postnuptial reviewed by someone who works for me, not for you, and I will make my own decisions. She paused, inhaled. Something I should have started doing a long time ago. Neil stood from the table. I need to leave. I need to talk to my own lawyer. Brent. Neil, where are you? Brent, I am done. Neil's voice was thin but certain. I have been done for a while. I just did not have anywhere to go. 3 people. 3 exits. The united front of the Holloways had broken into separate retreats. I stood. I picked up my briefcase. I picked up my blue ceramic mug. I had brought it from home, a small act of defiance I did not explain to anyone. Megan, you and Lily are welcome at my house tonight. There is a guest room ready. We will be there by 9. I walked to the front door. Brent did not follow me. Lorraine was sitting at the table staring at the pages of the forensic report spread across the walnut surface, like a losing hand of cards. Neil was already in the garage. Dana was still in the bathroom. At the door I turned. I looked at Brent one last time. Brent, you spent 5 years telling me I should be grateful. You were right about one thing. I am grateful. I am grateful I spent 32 years learning how to read the numbers behind the performance. I opened the door. March air, cold, clean, the kind of cold that wakes you up. Rita was parked 2 houses down. I walked to her car and tapped the window. She rolled it down. I do not think we will need you tonight, but Megan will call you tomorrow. Rita nodded. Good. I drove home. 22 minutes. I parked in the garage. I set the briefcase by the door. I went to the kitchen. I made fresh coffee. I poured it into the blue mug. I sat in Daniel's chair. The house was quiet. It was always quiet. But tonight the quiet felt different. It felt like the silence after you have said everything that needed saying, not a word more, not a word less. 3 weeks later, Megan's attorney, hired independently paid from the family trust, filed a motion to void the postnuptial agreement with the Arapahoe County District Court under CRS Section 14-2307. The hearing took 40 minutes. The judge reviewed the forensic report, the financial disclosure, and the verified figures. She called the discrepancy materially deficient and deliberately misleading. The postnuptial was voided. Megan filed for divorce the same week under Colorado's equitable distribution statute. Without the postnuptial, she was entitled to a fair share of marital assets, which, given Brent's debts, was modest. But Megan had the trust. Lily had the trust. Brent's development company fell under audit after the fraudulent net worth filings were flagged by the county. 2 additional subcontractors filed liens. His broker's license was placed under review by the Colorado Division of Real Estate. Neil quit Brent's company 2 days after the dinner. He found a job managing inventory at a home improvement store in Lakewood. He sent me a 2-sentence email. "I am sorry for what I helped do. I should have spoken up sooner." I did not reply, but I read it twice. Lorraine did not call. Not that week, not the week after. I did not expect her to. Some doors closed from both sides. Brent's attorney sent a letter threatening a defamation suit. Rita responded with a 4-page brief citing every public record source. We never heard from his attorney again. Megan and Lily moved into my house in Littleton. 3 bedrooms, a backyard with a swing set Daniel built in 2019, back when Lily was still an idea and a prayer. The handmade quilt, the one with purple elephants and yellow stars. The one Lorraine set on the floor behind the gift table is on Lily's bed. She calls it her rainbow blanket. She will not sleep without it. Megan went back to work. A marketing coordinator position at a Denver nonprofit that serves families in transition, similar to the job she had before Brent. She is making her own money for the first time in 5 years. She drives a used Subaru. She seems lighter. On Saturday mornings, I watch Lily while Megan runs errands. We make pancakes, not from a box, from scratch the way Daniel used to. Lily cracks the eggs. She gets shell in the batter every time. We pick it out together. Megan asked me once, sitting on the back porch after Lily was asleep, "Mom, why did you never tell me about the trust?" "Because your father and I wanted you to build your own life, not depend on ours." "But you used it to save me." "That is what safety nets are for, sweetheart. You do not put one up because you expect someone to fall. You put it up because you love someone enough to catch them if they do." I sit in Daniel's chair on a Sunday morning. The blue mug is in my hand. The chip on the rim is still there. I never replaced it because the chip reminds me that good things do not need to be perfect to be valuable. I think about Brent's Rolex, how he wore it to prove he mattered, how it turned out to be worth more than his stake in the house he showed off to everyone. I think about the word ordinary. Brent used it as an insult, but ordinary people build careers over 32 years. Ordinary people raise daughters who come home when it matters. Ordinary people keep promises to their husbands until keeping the promise would mean breaking something more important. Daniel always said wealth is a safety net, not a weapon. He was right. I did not use wealth as a weapon that Sunday evening. I used the truth. The wealth just made sure the truth had somewhere safe to land. I take one more sip. The coffee is getting cold. I do not mind. The house is full now. Lily is singing in the kitchen. Megan is laughing at something on her phone. The swing set creaks in the backyard wind. I am 67 years old. I am a retired certified fraud examiner who spent 32 years following the money. I am a mother, I am a grandmother, and I am a woman who keeps her promises to the people she loves. I am not ordinary, I am thorough. That is my story. 5 months of patience, 1 manila envelope, and a family dinner that changed everything. If someone ever tells you that you should be grateful or calls you ordinary, remember this: they are not paying close enough attention. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. Drop a comment, hit subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.